I don't know, and it depends on kind of where it's channeled and what energy exists at the time to kind of channel it in a particular direction, and it shifts over time, as we've talked about with the kind of the Bernie to Trump pipeline, or the hippie to Q pipeline, or whatever you have. When you don't present people with coherent mechanisms to have their grievances heard, you're going to wind up with pretty psychedelic politics.
Yeah, so Playbook yesterday put an item out that said, quote, "How Trump Loses Gen Z." And that was their little blurb about Pam Bondi's announcement that she was instructing prosecutors to seek the death penalty for Mangione. And I saw some people on the right pushing back on that. And, I also think there's some truth that seeking the death penalty in this case, juxtaposed with, you had Bill Cassidy, what was he on Newsmax the other day, talking about cuts to Medicare, and then corrected himself and said reforms. Was it Medicare or Medicaid?
Probably Medicaid. Probably Medicaid.
Yeah. And so he caught himself referring to quote unquote cuts, and then sort of smiled at the camera and said, "I'm sorry, I mean reforms." So I think when you juxtapose the death penalty in this super high profile case of someone who's become a meme, and I think some of the love for Luigi is genuine. A lot of it is like kind of pop culture meme energy. But when that's powerful in and of itself, and when you juxtapose that with a Republican Party that still has no answer on healthcare other than quote unquote reform of things like Medicaid, it's actually not a good combination politically. Like that, Luigi is such a high profile meme, is something that's absolutely on the pop cultural radar, that you're looking to use the death penalty in this case, and also at the same time not having like a humane solution to the healthcare crisis in this country is genuinely a politically difficult message to carry out, and it's such a high profile case that I think it does matter.
And they also are just stripping their own moral authority. Their previous argument was, okay, you have a legitimate grievance that these for-profit corporations are making life and death decisions so that they can, talk a bigger game at their next, quarterly conference call. But you shouldn't kill somebody over that. However, we're going to kill this guy over that. And maybe I'm just so divorced from regular American politics and the values that drive it that won't even be a problem for the people making the argument. But I think for regular people, it's like, wait a minute, you just said that he has legitimate grievances, but you shouldn't kill the person. So you have legitimate grievances against him. He allegedly killed somebody, but you're going to kill him. So now, if we're all back on the same moral plane, he allegedly killed one people. The insurance companies are killing countless people. So if you're going to give up the moral authority of killing, you are not fighting then from very strong ground, I don't think.
I'm not obviously a death penalty person. A lot of the country is, though. And I think there's still, they would say, go ahead and put Brian Thompson on trial. Don't shoot him in Midtown. And so I think that's... But
then would he get the death penalty after you tried him?
And your point makes sense to me, that it's like, if you look at the way a Brian Thompson is treated versus the way a Mangione is treated, or other people who are convicted of murder are treated, there's this just glaring disparity in the way that white collar criminals are either never brought to trial and never treated like criminals. I think that's absolutely true. And again, that's one of those things that the Trump era Republican Party was supposed to kind of have an answer to, this like high level of elite corruption. And it just never, now you have billionaires running around, doing liberation and Doge, and it's not the same, I think, MAGA that it was in 2015, 2016. So anyway, I think there's something to that.
And meanwhile, some of his supporters aren't taking it well. We can put up the second element here. This article goes through the kind of misery being felt by those who, see in Luigi some type of at least vengeance being exacted on their behalf. I wonder at the same time if this could backfire. The number one hope of people who support Luigi is that there would be some sort of jury nullification where this case would be prominent enough that everybody going in would know the contours. Jury nullification usually can't work because juries are barred from hearing from a defendant, why they did a certain thing if they did it for reasons of conscience. Like in general, the judge will prevent a jury from hearing that and just require the jury to adjudicate the case just based on the facts. Facts being, guy was on the street, here's the video, here's what happened. But so many people have become familiar with this story that the jurors are going to know what's going on here. If the jurors also, and this is the hope I'm talking about on behalf of his supporters, if the jurors know that a guilty verdict is going to mean a death sentence, I wonder if that actually increases the likelihood from slim to just a little bit less slim of jury nullification. What do you think?
No, that's a really interesting point because it's going to be, and that's, I think it's to the political calculation of this too, is this trial is going to be so high profile. It is going to be like massive media coverage. Gen Z is going to be paying attention to it. Every time Luigi's face, people get a glimpse of Luigi's face, it becomes another like iconic meme in the saga of Luigi Mangione. So it's also going to like remind people over and over again that the Trump administration is seeking the death penalty, as Pam Bondi put it there, part of Trump's agenda. They see this as like an agenda item to seek the death penalty in the case of Mangione, and they still don't have an actual answer on healthcare. If anything, they're making cuts. So I think, yeah, when you're looking at this, not teenagers, 20 something, or maybe he's in his early 30s now, who suffered immensely. There's some part of the reason Luigi's story pops is that there's some genuine sympathy for him based on his story. Doesn't justify anything, but it resonates with a lot of people who have also been pushed to the brink of sanity by the misery of the American healthcare system. And I think when you have a resonant story like that and you elevate it to a death penalty case, there's something to what you're saying, Ryan.
Now, politically speaking, and I'm not saying this is what the Bondi or the Trump administration are doing, if I were them and I were deeply cynical and just playing this for politics, I might throw the case. Trump actually might benefit from an acquittal and from the shock that would create among his supporters. And because if you look at the polling, young people by a plurality are supportive of Luigi, but the overall electorate is not. And a lot of the overall electorate is appalled at the people who are supportive of him. And so if you got an acquittal and you had all these celebrations in the street, and they would find, blue-haired kids with like 8 earrings out there celebrating, and they would run those on Fox News, and so that they would elevate that and say, look, this is the country that the libs want. And so just trying to further feed a backlash. So if you were a deeply cynical political actor in the Trump administration, you might actually figure out a way to kind of, to throw this one.
Heighten those contradictions.
Yeah. Like, what do you care? If you can gain political advantage, what do they care if they actually execute Luigi or keep him in prison or let him walk free? And then if he's free, every time he's out speaking, he's angering all of the people that are likely to support some type of reactionary backlash against that. So he then becomes a gift to the right that keeps on giving. You're playing with fire, obviously, but that's what cynical actors do.
Well, Ryan, you know this better than I do, but we'd have to be talking about probably like a Trump 5th term for Luigi to actually be executed, under Trump's watch.
Chance that he outlives Trump.